Margaret Holloway was 72 years old and lived alone in a small wooden house on the edge of a quiet American town called Raven Creek. People called her that strange old lady. Children laughed at her wrinkled face. Neighbors avoided her. Shopkeepers overcharged her. She had once been a respected school teacher, but after her husband died and her only son disappeared years ago, the town forgot her kindness. One rainy evening, 3 powerful men from the city arrived in black cars. They wanted her land. "Sign the papers, old woman," one of them said coldly. Margaret refused. "This house is all I have." They laughed. That night, her house was burned halfway down. Her cat died in the fire. Her savings were stolen. The police called it an accident. Margaret knew the truth. She sat on the ashes of her home and whispered, "They took everything from me, now I will take everything from them." Margaret was not always weak. In her youth, she worked for the U.S. government as a code analyst and intelligence planner. She knew how to gather information. She knew how to make enemies destroy themselves. The town saw only an old woman. But inside her mind lived a sharp and dangerous intelligence. She moved into a small trailer and began her plan. She visited the town library. She used public computers. She searched company records. The men who burned her house belonged to a powerful construction company, Black Rock Developments. They had destroyed farms. They had bribed police. They had ruined lives. Margaret started writing names in a notebook. Not with anger. With patience. "Revenge," she said softly, "is not loud. It is slow." Her first target was Daniel Cross, the man who threatened her. Margaret learned his secrets: illegal bank accounts, fake property documents, hidden crimes. She mailed anonymous evidence to journalists. She sent copies to federal offices. She leaked files online. One morning, the news exploded: CEO of Black Rock Developments arrested for fraud. Daniel Cross was taken away in handcuffs. Margaret watched from her trailer window as his car passed. She smiled for the first time in years. "One down," she whispered. "2 more to go." After Daniel Cross was arrested, Raven Creek changed. Police cars came every day. Reporters stood outside Black Rock's office. People whispered Margaret's name in the market. Wasn't it at her house they burned? Maybe she did something. Margaret walked slowly with her stick, pretending to be weak. Inside, she was strong and alert. Her second enemy was Victor Hale, the lawyer of Black Rock Developments. He was the man who bribed the police and made her case disappear. Margaret followed him quietly. She learned his routine. She learned his habits. She learned his sins. Victor had a secret relationship with a judge. He had forged legal papers. He had destroyed many poor families. Margaret whispered at night, "You buried my justice, now I will bury your lies." Margaret sent fake messages from a hidden account to Victor. "You are being watched. They know what you did. The judge will betray you." Victor started drinking. He stopped sleeping. Then Margaret sent real proof to the court: bribery recordings, fake land papers, secret bank transfers. One evening, police surrounded Victor's house. He tried to run. He fell down the stairs. He was arrested with broken bones and shaking hands. The judge was exposed the next day. Raven Creek was shocked. People began to look at Margaret differently. Not as a weak old woman, but as something dangerous. "One more," she said. "One more man who took my soul. The last man was the most powerful, Richard Voss, owner of Black Rock Developments. He was the one who ordered the fire. Margaret found the darkest truth: Richard had been connected to a child trafficking ring years ago. And then, she found her son's name. Her hands shook. Her son had worked against Richard. Then he disappeared. Margaret cried for the first time in many years. They didn't just burn my house. They stole my child. Her revenge was no longer just for herself. It was for all the lost voices. She gathered every file, every proof, every name. She prepared one final move. Margaret knew Richard Voss was careful. He trusted no one. So she became invisible. She sent all the evidence anonymously to federal investigators: child trafficking records, burned land documents, fire order proof, her son's disappearance file. Then she did one last thing. She sent Richard a message from a fake account: "Your past is coming back." Richard panicked. He tried to escape the country that same night. But at the airport, he was stopped. Federal agents arrested him in front of everyone. Margaret watched the news quietly from her small trailer. Her hands trembled. Not from fear. From relief. During the investigation, Margaret was called to court. There, she learned the truth. Her son, Ethan Holloway, had worked secretly with the FBI. He had gathered proof against Richard's illegal business. But Richard found out. Ethan was killed and his death was hidden as missing. Margaret closed her eyes and cried. My son didn't run away. He was brave. For the first time, she felt proud, and broken at the same time. The court honored Ethan as a hero. Margaret placed his photo on her table. You got justice, my boy, she whispered. Richard Voss was sentenced to life in prison. Victor Hale got 20 years. Daniel Cross lost everything. Black Rock Developments was destroyed. The stolen lands were returned to poor families. The town of Raven Creek changed. People who once ignored Margaret now respected her. Children helped her walk, neighbors brought food. But Margaret did not smile easily. Revenge had given her peace, but justice gave her purpose. She turned her trailer into a small shelter for old women who had no home. A sign hung outside, Holloway Hope House. Years later, Margaret passed away quietly in her sleep. At her funeral, the town gathered. A reporter said, she was just an old woman. But a judge replied, no. She was courage in silence. Her story spread across America. They called her, the old woman who fought back. And her son's name was finally remembered. Not as missing, but as a hero. The end.